Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. All right, we got a lot to cover. Every day we got a lot to cover. There's so much news going on, and we're going to talk about everything. First, I want to talk about what just happened in the race for the Republican Speaker of the House. Byron Donalds is out, and they've chosen Tom Emmer for Speaker in that secret ballot meeting, and he'll probably get it. And Tom Emmer, it was broken by the Gateway Pundit over the weekend, and on my weekend shows on YouTube, I talked about this. Tom Emmer, this is frightening, guys. This is frightening, and I don't hype, I don't do clickbait, I don't troll and tell you to be worried or hyped up about something when there's no need to be hyped up. I don't do any of those games. I know a lot of people do. I don't do that. This one's bad. This one's really bad. We'd be better off with Kevin McCarthy, and I'll tell you what.
So are you upset with Matt Gaetz for,
No,
I don't know. It seems like
Gaetz.
if he didn't do this, none of this would be happening.
If Matt Gaetz didn't do what he did, I would never know about Tom Emmer. Tom Emmer, I'll tell you what the problem is with him in a minute that makes him such a bad guy. I never heard of this guy before like 2 or 3 days ago, and I don't think anybody did. He's been in Congress, but he's one of those behind-the-scenes guys. Most of the people that are in the Congress are among the 15 or so that are constantly on television.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, and most of the people in Congress are not on television. And behind the scenes, there's a lot of these movers and shakers that are never on television. And unless they are your own congressman,
mm-hmm.
you don't know who they are until something like this happens. This is what makes Tom Emmer very, very scary. The Gateway Pundit broke this, and this has been reported in other sources as well. Before he was in Congress, Tom Emmer was the spokesperson for an organization that was an advocacy group that was advocating to end the Electoral College. Now, that's a bad thing, but that's not what makes him so terrifying. That organization he was an official spokesperson for was funded by George Soros. I'm not kidding. Look it up. Funded by George Soros. And I got a story about this that I posted on Twitter over the weekend. So if you follow me on Twitter at Brian Craig Show, you can read through that whole story. I'm not going to do it now because I talked about it a lot on one of my weekend live streams on YouTube. But that is the second openly George Soros-connected Republican that we've had in the national news recently. This guy's the new one. And, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy, whose graduate school was paid for by the Soros family. And remember that? We talked about that. So George Soros, let me tell you, these Soros people, I'm like looking over my shoulder here, even talking about them. They have moved on and have infiltrated the Republican Party. They've already taken over the Democrat Party. The son's been to the Biden White House how many times? I've seen some high counts about it. They are responsible for the crime wave across this country because about 10, 15 years ago, Soros started backing local prosecutors, and that's how we ended up with no bail and shoplifting's legal in California and all of these things. And there are a lot of people that have been victims of crime and even dead because of what the Soros people have done. Everybody says the Democrats are responsible for the crime wave. That's true, but behind the scenes are the Soros people, okay? So now we find out that they have made it into the Republican Party. My opposition to Vivek Ramaswamy is I don't like some new kid on the block that I've never heard of. It reminds me too much of Obama. But then when we found out that George Soros's brother helped pay for his graduate school, and the next thing you know, he's a multi-billionaire, Ramaswamy, and he's running for president, I've been saying I do not want him to have a seat at the table with Trump because he's got that Soros connection, and we've got to be careful. Well, it looks like the Republican establishment has already been infiltrated by Soros, and they're going to make this guy the Speaker of the House, who's a Soros guy. Mm-hmm. And that's a god-awful thing. Now, I'm not mad at Matt Gaetz because we would not have known about Emmer's and his Soros connection if it were not for Matt Gaetz. But this is frightening.
Well, somebody had tweeted, Proud Elephant on Twitter, Proud Elephant US, wrote, now that we know Tom Emmer is the GOP Speaker nominee, do you think the 8 Republicans that teamed up with the entire Democratic Party to oust McCarthy made a mistake, yes or no? And most people are agreeing with you. And I put the poll on your community page. So when the show's over, take the poll. And my question is, now that we know Tom Emmer is the GOP, do you think Matt Gaetz made a mistake? Yes or no?
No, I don't. Because
we know you. That's how you feel.
Yeah,
and I want to know what the viewers think.
Sure.
I'm still undecided on that. I think it's good to expose these things. I agree with you, and that definitely has happened. And I think if we're thinking long term, that could be a good thing. I don't know if that was Matt Gaetz' intention. Probably not. But it has brought some things into light that, like you said, nobody knew. And that is a good thing for sure.
What we didn't know is that Soros has not only infiltrated the Republican Party, but at very high levels. Now, let me read a little bit. This is from the Gateway Pundit just a few minutes ago. Tom Emmer wants to change the U.S. Constitution to eliminate the Electoral College and let the popular vote choose the presidency. Now, I know a lot of people on a very surface thing, well, why shouldn't it be that way? Well, our founding fathers set up the Electoral College because some states were much bigger than others in either size or population. And if the popular vote decided who the president was and not the Electoral College, California would decide all the presidents. We would be done, okay? And this country would be under the rule of California.
Do you think so, or do you think more people in California that are conservative would actually come out and vote?
Not enough.
If they knew it was the popular vote.
Not enough because of the illegal population. Emmer also reportedly worked against Trump-endorsed candidates in 2022.
Of course.
So now he's not the speaker yet, and they're still got this was in their secret ballot. But when you look at someone who has this kind of connection, getting to that level, the chances of them not making it are slim. And Byron Donalds. It's a really sad thing about Byron Donalds.
That didn't last.
And what had happened with him a couple days ago, well, it was yesterday. It was insane. It had come out that when he was young, he had some legal problems. He was arrested for marijuana possession when he was very young, and also he had a problem with the bank, some bank fraud.
That's not good.
When he was also young, and
people make mistakes.
It was, and somebody that has that kind of background, it's not good. But what had happened was, if you go and watch, I was talking about this on the radio yesterday morning. It was insane. Over the weekend on one of my YouTube live streams, I was going through Byron Donalds' Wikipedia. That was Saturday night. It was on my Saturday night stream, and then Monday morning I went through it again, and the arrest had been added. And they were not there on Saturday night, and they were there Monday morning. And someone in England had updated Byron Donalds' Wikipedia entry at about 2:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time.
Seems like there's a lot
would be about
links to England when it comes to our government.
Absolutely. So 2:30 a.m. here on the East Coast is 7:30 a.m. in England. So that means that first thing in the morning, the deep state in England, MI6 or whoever it is, the Oxford people, made that change. And Donalds dropped out, and he was done ever since that happened because he didn't want that to be a focal point. It could destroy his future in politics. Right. And I got to tell you, his future's probably pretty much done because he challenged the establishment, and they put out the...
This is what they do. This is what happened to Madison Cawthorn.
That's right.
And this is what they do. Somebody put him up to that because he's a pretty new guy. And I think the problem when you're new, like him or Matt Gaetz, is you're not as experienced and not as shifty as the other guys who've been there a while. Not as savvy, I guess, to the way Washington works.
No, and
I think somebody put him up to it and whispered in his ear for this very purpose because they knew they had this information on him. And they wanted an excuse to bring it out.
There was, a lot of people here in Florida, Kathy and I had talked about this. A lot of us thought he might run for governor of Florida after DeSantis' term is up because we have two-term limits here, and DeSantis is in his second term. And I don't think that's going to happen, Kathy. I think he's going to be in the House for forever.
Well, we'll see. I wanted to talk to you guys. Mike Lindell always has a passion to help everybody get the best sleep of their life.
That's for sure.
He created the most amazing pillow, and he also has these amazing slippers, the My Slippers. Right now, My Pillow is having an early Christmas slipper sale. And, slippers are a very traditional Christmas gift, and they're really great. And they have a lot of choices and variety to choose from as far as colors, lots of different sizes. If you have somebody, my stepfather wears like a size 15 shoe or something. He's a big, he's 6'4". He's got a big foot. And it is really hard to find slippers or shoes that matter, but slippers for somebody with a different size foot. Like your mom has really small feet. Some people have just feet that are too big, too small. They have sizes for everybody. I've never seen anybody that has like so many sizes. So if you have somebody with really, really large feet, these originally were $139.98. But for a limited time, they're now $39.98. That's $100 off. That's Christmas. Incredible for Christmas. It's a great Christmas gift. It's a Christmas gift. Believe me, the person will use. You've had your slippers for a couple of years now. They still look brand new. You can wash them. You can wear them anywhere. You can even wear them to the store if you want to, because they have a really good sole that's hard, but the inside's really soft. Like I said, they're designed to wear indoor and outdoor all day long. In fact, when Brian comes home from work, it's the first thing he does is he puts his slippers on.
I'm like Mr. Rogers.
You just need the cardigan. Made with My Pillow foam and impact gel to help prevent fatigue. Made with quality leather suede. As always, use promo code Kane. And if you know somebody with diabetes or neuropathy or that have circulation issues, my mom has a lot of circulation issues. I think I'm going to get her a pair of these for Christmas. These are really good slippers for somebody who has trouble walking because of circulation problems. They really help keep them comfortable, and they're designed in a certain way to help with that, which is, I think, really, really important. This offer will not last long, so order now. Promo code KANE, KANE, at mypillow.com.
That's right. Okay, now, today on his podcast, Matt Gaetz was talking about some things involving the very things we're talking about. And,
oh, good.
I love this new thing that's going on with members of Congress having podcasts. This is a whole new thing, and you never used to hear these people do things like this. And I think it's pretty cool. But anyway, Matt Gaetz here, he's talking about what's going on in the speaker's fight, and he caught Kevin McCarthy in something. And Kevin McCarthy and Emmer and all these other jokers, they're going to make it their mission to purge Matt Gaetz from Congress.
Not just Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and maybe Byron Donalds now.
Oh,
they want to get rid of those
They're
three
all
people,
in trouble.
I promise you. Anybody connected to Trump.
Yeah. So let me play. This is a clip. This is Matt Gaetz on his podcast today. This is really good. I'm not going to do any intro because it explains itself. And he explains something, and then Matt Gaetz plays a clip of an interview Kevin McCarthy did this week. And Kevin McCarthy is so corrupt, he forgot he was on television, and he said something on television that he would not normally say. Okay, and it was pretty interesting reveal. Okay, here's the great Matt Gaetz.
We are live broadcasting to you right now from the Rayburn building. But if I were to take about 30 or 40 steps outside of this building, I would go across the street where there is an office building for the Republican National Committee and the National Republican Congressional Committee. Across the street from the Capitol is where our party leaders and bosses often meet with lobbyists to get commitments for them to provide money and then ultimately to receive those donations in the form of fundraisers, gatherings, policy conferences, dinner. That all happens just across the street from where we are right now. When you're in the Capitol building, it is not only verboten, it's quite literally against the law to talk about fundraising and donations. You have to do that across the street. You can't do it in the Capitol building. Astonishingly, I watched former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy make the case on Meet the Press that what's most important when evaluating a potential candidate for Speaker is not just how they will lead inside the Capitol building. It is what they will do across the street
Yep.
for the lobbyists and special interests. Take a listen.
This is not a moment in time to play around with learning on the job. We need someone who understands how to do this job. I believe Tom Emmer, our whip, he's been in the room with all of our successes, from our bills to secure the border, from Parents' Bill of Rights, from cutting $2 trillion, getting work requirements. He knows how to do the job across the street, at the same time helping us win the majority. He sets himself head and shoulders above all those others who want to run. We need to get him elected this week and move on and bring this not just party together, but focus on what this country needs most.
So did you hear the tell? Kevin McCarthy, while endorsing his preference for House Speaker, literally referenced the across the street work as central to the position. You see, it's the parlance in Washington that you talk about the people who are best at laundering special interest money at being good across the street.
Wow.
I just can't believe that. That was...
Yeah. Okay, now, see what happened there. That was on Meet the Press, by the way, with Kevin McCarthy. And I saw that interview because I picked some clips off that I played yesterday on the show, and that reference meant nothing to me. I just thought it was something he said. I don't even remember him saying it. But now that you have the context, that's code word they use. Oh, we got to go across the street to take our bribes. That's code words. And he slipped and used their code word inter-office lingo on Meet the Press.
I've never heard a politician say that.
And let me tell you, Matt Gaetz, between what he just did by getting rid of Kevin McCarthy and now this, he is really in some trouble with these people. And you're right, he very likely will go the way of Madison Cawthorn. He is a big enemy to these people. Now, I want to tell you,
he needs to be very careful because they set up Madison Cawthorn. And they tried with Matt Gaetz with this underage thing, which didn't stick, obviously, because they had no proof of anything.
It was all made up.
But that doesn't mean they're going to stop trying. They're going to keep trying to set this guy up.
They're going to bring that back
with something.
They're going to see that was tossed out in the court system, in their congressional ethics committee. It's not the same bar as in a court system. They don't need proof, and they've already talked about. I understand this is discouraging. But you can't, and a lot of people will say, "Well, I'm just going to not be involved in all this anymore."
Yeah,
that's what they want you to do. You've still got to stay involved, and
it is hard though, Brian. It is discouraging.
Well, look at what President Trump's dealing with. This is the swamp.
I just had somebody left a comment because I put that poll on your YouTube, and somebody said, "Wait, is Byron out? I can't keep up."
Yeah, he's out.
It is hard to keep up with this, and at the same time, you have a life you got to live. And work and support your family and do things like that. And there are times you just throw out your hands in the air because you're like, you know what? All the time and energy and worrying and crying and thinking about this, it's not doing anything. But here's where it matters. It matters to talk about these things with your friends, to let them know, tell them about this show, tell them about Brian's radio show, point them in that direction, help them get informed. And then maybe these people will get voted out and maybe we can keep Matt Gaetz in. I mean, it's important for people to know. And if you put your head in the sand, fine, do it, but don't do it forever. Do it take a break. I have a friend, one of our listeners, I won't say who, and he texts me sometimes and you know him, and he tells me he takes a break from the news on the weekends.
Yeah.
And you have to take a break sometimes. Even Brian sometimes will be like, I got to take a day off from the news. It's overwhelming, especially when you have so much going on. But, if you go on YouTube, and Brian and I have done this, and you watch old newscasts from the 70s, it's the same nonsense that we're dealing with now, the same problems. It doesn't change. But you can help get these people, contact your representative, let them know that you do know what's going on. And if you have to bury your head in the sand and just say, I can't take it anymore, just take a break. Mm-hmm. That's all. Just say, I'm just going to take a week off or a couple of days, not from our show, of course, a couple of days off. I'm not going to watch the news. I'm going to turn it off. It's okay to do that, but don't do it forever. Like you had a caller the other day said the first time she voted in her life, and she was in her 80s, was for Trump. I cannot imagine going my whole life and never voting. I have always voted in every presidential and congressional election.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who are like that, millions, who never vote. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to think about it. It's too much. And I can understand that because you think to yourself, what can I do? What can one person do? But you really can do more than you realize. And it is overwhelming, but don't give up. Don't give up. Things are being exposed.
Yeah.
And you just have to have faith. It's hard to keep the faith, but you really got to keep it.
We are seeing things we have never seen before.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, you're more informed than ever, and sometimes that's scary, you know, when you have too much information.
Well, what's basically happened is George Soros has picked the Speaker of the House, and you got to wonder, you know, he's not a spokesman officially for George Soros now, but is he still connected to George Soros? And as far as I'm concerned, you know, working in any capacity, taking Soros money is like doing porn. Once you do porn, that's it. You're burned. That's it. And the same goes for taking a dollar from Soros.
Like Vivek.
Exactly. Once somebody has taken, that's Kathy's phone.
My phone's making weird noises. I apologize.
It's making the sound of pouring water.
I'll turn it down.
It's like that commercial for the Brita filter.
Things just pop up.
Yeah. I have all the notifications off on my phone, pretty much always. If I didn't, oh my goodness. So I know it's discouraging, but don't be discouraged. I want to talk about Jenna Ellis, and I'm sure you guys have seen this.
This is crazy.
She's part of the Trump 19 in Fulton County.
Yep.
Trump co-defendant Jenna Ellis breaks down in tears as she pleads guilty in the Georgia case. She said she would have refused to represent President Trump if she knew then what she knows now. And you know, when you plead guilty in these cases and make a plea deal, often what they do, you saw this with BTK, they have to go in court, read a statement, and detail their crimes. And that's what they did.
That's what they did with Vandersloot just now.
Yeah.
And Warren Vandersloot with Natalie
because
Holloway.
they need the confession in the record.
Right.
And they did that with Jenna Ellis today. And I got news for you. I know a lot of Democrats and uniparty snakes are high-fiving over this. This moment with Jenna Ellis today, I know what's happened with other Trump attorneys. Okay, she's the third one in the last week that's made a deal that pled guilty in Fulton County.
Yes.
We have seen 3 attorneys, Sidney Powell, the other guy whose name I can't remember, and now Jenna Ellis, plead guilty to crimes, which, by the way, they committed no crimes. But one of the reasons that these people are pleading is they're not criminals. And criminals aren't worried about going to jail. They'll try to stay out, but if they go, they go. That's where their bros are. But the law-abiding people like Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell are not criminals, and people that are not criminals fear jail for very good reasons. And watching Jenna Ellis confess to crimes she did not commit, I don't understand why people in the media are not openly terrified that in the United States, attorneys are being hauled in front of judges, pleading guilty and facing prison time. Some of them have gone to prison, like Michael Cohen. It started with Cohen, and now it's moved on to others. When most people that are arrested and charged with crimes are guilty. President Trump's not, of course, but most people are, in particular, violent crimes. And when someone gets arrested and is put on trial for murder, and they did it, and they plead not guilty, and they hire attorneys, and the attorneys who know they did it, like O.J. Simpson's Dream Team or any case that's in America today, the attorneys know they did it, but they advocate for that person's right to a fair trial. It is upon the state to prove their guilt, and they advocate for this guilty person to go free. You don't charge the attorney with crimes because they represented a guilty person. I'm not saying Donald Trump's guilty, but that's how our system works. And when we have, I'll tell you who I'm most upset about with this is not the media and not even Fannie. Okay, it's the judges. These cases are going before judges who could all dismiss these charges. Judges are attorneys. And the judges in Fulton County that these Trump attorneys are going in front of, just like this jerk in New York, these are like Nazi judges. And let me tell you what I mean by that. in the Nuremberg trials, they tried judges too. After they were done trying all, in fact, that movie with Spencer Tracy is about that with Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster was in the Nuremberg trial.
Yeah, Judy Garland was in a lot of people are in that.
Burt Lancaster wasn't a Nazi leader; he was a Nazi judge, and this was after all the big ones took place. Nazi judges were lawyers in Germany, and they wanted to keep their jobs and prestige. So they did what the Nazi state told them to do, which was wrong. And go and watch Judgment at Nuremberg. Those were judges that were on trial in Judgment at Nuremberg.
I don't think that's going to be happening here. I don't think any of these judges are going to be held accountable.
These judges are like Nazi judges in that they are taking cases that should not even be before a court. When you have...
But here's the thing, honey.
Yeah.
You don't understand. They don't think like you. They really think he's guilty.
Not all the judges. No, some of them
I don't
are afraid.
agree with you.
Some of them are afraid. Some of them are afraid. There's no way. You know, in America...
I think they're totally Trump derangement syndrome. I think they're totally deluded.
In America, we have that attorney-client privilege, which is like a confessional with a priest, okay? You are to be able to tell your attorney everything so they can properly represent you, okay?
Well, here's the thing.
And now we've moved into this area in the country where people that are not popular, their attorneys are going to prison and facing crimes. What's that going to do to the attorney-client privilege? What does that do to our justice system? It's over. It's over. And I'm most angry at these judges in Fulton County that are allowing this to happen.
Well, here's the way I see it, and I agree with what you're saying, but also here's what happened. You have all these lawyers who know the law, right? That's what they do. They know the law. They know the law better than anybody, advising Trump on what to do after the election. They were all advising him, but somehow he's the mastermind behind this. They were all advising him, telling him what to do. He was acting on their advice. Yet now they're making plea deals and saying that he's to blame. How does that make sense to anybody? How can anybody say that that's okay? I mean, it's wrong to arrest lawyers. You're right.
Yeah.
But if a lawyer is advising a client and the client takes the lawyer's advice, does the lawyer blame the client for taking his advice?
You know,
I've never seen anything like this.
You hire attorneys.
He was taking their advice as constitutional lawyers who know the law.
They're experts.
But somehow he's to blame and he's the mastermind of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Even though they were advising him, and none of them have the balls to come out. She's up there crying like a victim, like Trump duped her.
Yeah.
She was advising him.
Yeah.
She was telling him what to do.
Exactly.
He's the victim, not her.
Exactly.
But they're trying to make it out like she's a victim. She was telling him the law and what he can and cannot do, and he was following her advice.
Exactly.
So how is she a victim here? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden now Trump is the villain, and all his lawyers who know the law very well, who were advising him on telling him what to do, now they're the victims and he's the grifter. Give me a break.
No, it makes
so ridiculous.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, it makes sense to liberals, so you know how that they live on bizarro.
It's scary.
Bizarro world.
It's scary. I just cannot believe. I've heard one or two lawyers on television say that it's a travesty of justice on Newsmax. But I haven't. It seems to me that lawyers nationwide should be standing up against this. This should frighten all of them. And you really got to ask yourself, when did it become acceptable to arrest and charge lawyers for representing clients?
And in order to do that and to set the precedent that a lawyer is a victim of their client. When have you ever seen a lawyer portrayed as a victim of their client?
That doesn't even make sense.
None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense.
Now this will be
he went with the advice of his lawyers. He didn't go against their advice.
That's right.
He went with their advice.
And, you know, here's the thing, okay? There's this whole... We're going to be hearing about Jenna Ellis and some of these others for the rest of our lives, because what's going to happen now is they'll never be able to practice law again. Even if they could get a license again, who would trust them? So someone like Jenna Ellis is going to end up making a living as a pundit on CNN or MSNBC for the rest of her life, like Michael Cohen's been doing. And this is what happens, okay? this is what happens. If you guys think about it, we've seen these Watergate people on television all our lives, but they're all like 89 years old now, and they need a new crop. So the Watergate people are going to be filled with the Trump people, and the liberal media are going to have all these old Trump lawyers, just like they had all these Watergate lawyers and stuff on TV for 50 years. For the next 50 years, we're going to see all these people until they do it again. And I got news for you guys. Jenna Ellis, I know people are angry at Jenna Ellis. I'm not angry at Jenna Ellis. I'm really not. I heard her interviewed right after she got booked, and she was terrified. They took her into the main
well, sure, anybody would be terrified.
Her arraignment was different than President Trump's, okay? They took her back in with the bad criminals, and it wasn't segregated. It was
but
men
none
and
of
women.
these lawyers are going to come out and say, President Trump was taking my advice.
No,
I'm to blame.
No.
I advised him.
No one's going to do that.
That's what happened, though.
And when I heard this interview that she gave after that, she was scared just at the booking. There was a fight that broke out between men and women. When I say it wasn't, and they took her back into a scary part of the jail. When I say it wasn't segregated, I don't mean racially. I mean gender wise. It was men and women. Fight broke out. She was with the scummiest of the scum in Fulton County. And they took her back there for the booking to scare her, trying to break her. And people that I'm not happy with Jenna Ellis. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not angry.
But you don't blame her for what she's doing.
I wouldn't say that. I'm just not angry at her because she's a victim of psychological torture. And like Sidney Powell, she broke.
You get into survival mode.
Well, when people are law-abiding citizens, like I said at the beginning of the program, when people are law-abiding citizens, this most terrifying thought to a law-abiding citizen is going to prison.
Let me ask you, could they have charged him in any county? See, now we know. Or did it have to be Fulton?
No, it could have been any county.
Well, they
in Georgia.
did Fulton because it's the worst jail in the state.
And they got a prosecutor who would do it.
Well, right, but they did it because they knew that with this jail and the reputation, that there's no way these people would be willing to go there.
Now,
that's why that was part of it too.
I wanted to talk just a couple more things about the MyPillow slippers that are, by the way, $100 off right now with our promo code Kane at checkout.
That is an amazing deal.
Yeah, Kane. The MyPillow My Slippers make great Christmas gifts, and Kathy was talking about the sizes. They have recently added a whole bunch of new sizes, larger and wider sizes for the bigger guys and smaller sizes for women and children, and a whole bunch of new colors. And they're good for all day wear, not just the slippers around the house. And I remember when we were on our listener cruise, Steve Kane, he was wearing his. He has a couple pair, and one of them are the black charcoal color. He was wearing them with his suit on formal night at dinner, and no one knew. They thought he just had some really cool velvet shoes on or something because they were black. And that. And I said, "Those are my slippers." He says, "Yeah." He said his wife said he couldn't wear them, and he wore them. She didn't even realize.
You wouldn't realize they're nice.
Good for all day wear, and they're very high quality. But I got to tell you, they make great Christmas gifts. And like everything Mike Lindell makes, they're made very well. I've had mine since the day they came out. They look brand new, and they also come in. They come in a shoebox, but the shoebox is nice too. So when you give someone the MyPillow My Slippers, you'll wrap the box. It's a very nice presentation, and they're less than $40. And they look like a very expensive gift, really, because they used to be almost $140. That's what we paid for mine. And so whoever you buy them for, men, women, or children, they will love them and have them for years to come. So go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. And remember, you can use our promo code Kane, Kane, on all the specials at MyPillow.com, not just the ones that we talk about. Right now, we're talking about the slippers for Christmas because, one, they're great, the price is great, and they're a gift that when you give them away for Christmas, the person that receives them will have them for years to come. So promo code Kane, Kane, at MyPillow.com. You know, Benny Johnson tweeted earlier today, and he asked a very good question. He said, this is Benny Johnson on Twitter. How did Joe Biden, who spent his life's work in public service on a government salary, pay for his nearly $3 million beach house in cash?
I think we all know how.
But meanwhile, Trump and his lawyers are the ones getting arrested.
Yeah, that's pretty sickening.
How is this even possible?
Yesterday,
what's going on?
Because these people really believe that Trump is dangerous. Nicole Wallace, who's a complete lunatic, said that the world would be that things would be more dangerous under Trump right now. We have 2 wars that have broken out since Biden
pretty bad ones too.
has been in office. Okay, and a third one coming. Record inflation. People cannot afford groceries. People can't afford to buy a home anymore. They can't afford to buy a car anymore.
Well, we might have to buy a new iPhone if that one broke.
Yeah, I drop it all the time.
You drop that on every show.
I know. I drop it all the time. It's cracked all the back. Anyway, but Nicole Wallace thinks that Trump, if he was in office right now, that the world would be more dangerous than it is. She really believes this. They really, really believe, not everybody, some people know exactly what's going on, but the useful idiots, as I call them, the people on TV and the Joy Behars and the Nicole Wallaces, they really believe that what they're being spoon-fed. They really believe that Trump is a true danger to our democracy and that whatever means necessary to stop him is totally justifiable. Yeah. Even if you have to go over the Constitution and not follow the laws, it doesn't matter, because as long they're not thinking long term and they're not thinking of the repercussions of what they're doing and the precedents they're setting, and they don't care. Even if you cannot convince Nicole Wallace, who has a show on TV,
MSNBC.
You cannot convince her that Trump is a better option right now than Biden. She truly thinks
you know what it's all
dangerous.
about.
These people are cuckoo.
I'll tell you what it's all about. But first, I want to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Oh, yeah. That's what it's all about. No, I'll tell you what it's all about with their anger towards Trump when I'm done with this. But our Patreon supporters, thank you guys for your support.
Yes.
You really have made this show possible, and your support helps a lot. And if you become a Patreon supporter, of course, you have access to commercial-free editions of all of our podcast episodes. And there's a lot of other things that we post on the Patreon page that's exclusive to Patreon supporters. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every episode. So the names you'll hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Melissa, Maria in Texas, Richard, David, Heather, ActicFox, John, Paulette, Carlos, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Rome, Wisconsin, and Mike P. These are our top Patreon supporters. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the episode description. Okay, so what it's all about is pretty simple. It's about what Matt Gaetz was talking about earlier. It's about those people across the street. And this.
So do you think Nicole Wallace really knows Trump isn't dangerous? She just says it because she's on the take? Or do you think she really believes he's dangerous?
He's dangerous.
What do you think?
Well, see, he's dangerous to the establishment's way of life because the establishment's way of life is making money through politics, through the donors.
Sure. He's already exposed so much.
And the donors control everything. I mean, they control they're the secret government is what they are, basically, the donors.
I've never seen one person with so much up against them. It's just incredible to me. It really amazes me. When you watch him speak, we watched him yesterday, the guy hasn't changed at all. Like, it hasn't changed him. You would think a normal person, and I mean that in a good way, a normal person, you can tell when something bothers somebody, and you see them, you can tell they're off. Trump is never off. When have you ever seen the guy give a speech and be off and be like, this is getting to him? It's amazing to me. I don't know how he does it. He's like supernatural. I really don't know. And I think, like I said yesterday, it's tremendous faith. And he always says, I know I have truth on my side. And he really is a believer in truth, justice, and the American way. And I think he really believes in the American system, the American people. And people should really think about that. It's not about him. He really believes in America. And that truth will prevail and that he will come out on top. And I really hope that's true.
The few things here that I want to talk about before we end, because it's important. Today on the radio, I had one of our sponsors in studio, and he was telling me he's getting a lot of calls from you guys. So thank you so much for your support of the program.
That's wonderful.
And but he was surprised how many women he hears from. And, usually, 'cause I've been doing this for a long time. You hear me say this, guys. I've been doing this talk thing for 30 years. And it used to be when I first started doing talk like we're doing now 30 years ago, talking about politics and news, the audience was about 75% male. And you know this because there's always ratings and statistics and you get all this stuff. And now the audience is, because I get the statistics and things, a lot of breakdowns, is 50-50 male and female.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that's, in large part because of Trump. I think a lot of women have gotten more into politics. But, here's one of the reasons I think that is, too. There more women are involved in politics than ever before. And we talk about this sometimes. I think in most marriages, women run the finances in the house. And if you remember that show, Wife Swap was very popular. And they did a couple episodes where they tried to do husband swap. And it didn't work, and it wasn't interesting because
the wife runs the home.
Women set the tone for the entire house, and they run the finances. True. And all these things that we talk about that are affecting our economy and everything, I think women are more in touch with it than we guys because
I agree. I think women are more involved now more than ever because of the ripple effect of all these things that have happened, plus the indoctrination happening in the schools. That has been a big catalyst for a lot of women, which is something you've never seen. All this stuff, these activist teachers getting into schools, hanging up flags, brainwashing children, gay pride parades, all these things going on at public schools has really activated mothers that are not happy and grandmothers. Look at the Moms of Liberty. It's a very powerful political group here in Florida and now nationwide. And that got all mothers involved because of what was going on in the schools and the economy, and the women buy the groceries. That's something that they're going to be like, what's going on here? I need to do something.
There are three things that I know the price of, okay? Gas.
Yeah, you get the gas.
I know how much gas costs because I get gas in the car.
Yeah.
Okay. I know how much the MyPillow products are because I talk about them.
Right.
Okay. And in the commercials. And you know what? I don't think there is a third thing I know the price of.
Maybe your coffee.
What I spend on coffee every week.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know how much the shirt I wear cost. I don't know how much anything costs. Sometimes, and I'll tell you, prices have gotten so bad.
But I know what all that is because I do all that.
I think that's how it is in most households, and because women pay the bills.
I told you guys, I love oranges.
Oh, this was insane.
And the navel oranges are the best. They're big, they're seedless, they're juicy. To me, they're the best oranges. And that's what I like to buy. And I don't buy them every week, but I do, I'm a Florida girl. I like oranges. I bought 4 navel oranges this week at Publix. $8. They were almost just under $8. They were almost
And we're in Florida. Oranges should be like almost free here.
Yeah. I told Brian we should get an orange tree in the backyard to get them for free. It'd be worth the investment. When I was growing up and when you were growing up, when I was growing up in Plantation, Florida in the 70s, we had an orange tree in our backyard. And I remember people from all around the neighborhood would come by and my mom would have paper bags full of oranges.
We used to do that too. Yeah.
And she'd give all the neighbors oranges because we had so many. We had dozens and dozens every week. Yeah. So I think we're going to get one because that's my favorite fruit. And I don't like fruit, but I do love oranges. And I think I want to get one because the oranges are too damn expensive.
When you're in Florida and oranges are costing this much,
$8
in Florida,
for 4.
That's insane. And
it is insane.
So I think there are more women involved in politics than ever before. And I know some of the ladies listening might say, "Well, I've always been involved." Maybe you have, but I've noticed for a while that the audience is 50-50 women. And I see the statistics. When I say 50-50, I mean it's 50-50, and it used to be 70-30, 80-20 year to year.
It has a lot to do with Trump. My stepmom has always been very conservative, but ever since Trump, she has gotten very involved. She now is a volunteer at the polls. She's involved in her local Republican group. She organizes things for those events. And that was about 2 or 3 years ago. She's a big Trump fan. Ever since Trump, she has gotten very involved. So I think Trump, they like to tell you Trump doesn't appeal to women. He's gotten women very activated in politics.
That's right.
More than any other Republican candidate, I can tell you that. How many women have gotten involved in politics because of Trump? Because they like him. They like what he stands for, traditional values. So he has activated a lot of these women. And believe me, the top people on the left, they know what's going on. They see the polls, they see the activism, and they can't handle it, and they want to squash it like a bug.
Now, I had Laura Loomer on this morning on the morning show, and she said something, and I think there's something to this. Okay, did you hear Loomer talking about Ramaswamy?
I did, but she said she likes him.
Well, she's friends with Ramaswamy,
right?
Okay, Laura Loomer knows Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't trust the guy. Okay, I don't like the guy, but she's friends with him. You know what are you going to do? You know, but she talked about Ramaswamy coming out soon to endorse President Trump.
Yes.
And she kind of liked to see him do it at the debate and announce he's dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump during the NBC debate. I don't know if it's going to be that dramatic. But with this new speaker pick that we have that's with George Soros, we really don't want Vivek Ramaswamy anywhere near Donald Trump.
Well, would you tell her that? Because you didn't tell her that you felt that way today.
Yeah, I'll tell her that. I just didn't want to get involved in it today. I had limited time and I was up against the clock.
Does she know that he's connected to Soros?
If I know it, she knows it. I don't think there's much that I know that she doesn't know about things like that. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but Ramaswamy is going to make a move to get close to Trump. And I got to tell you, I've mentioned.
He wants to be on his cabinet for sure.
He is very, very popular with young people.
Yep.
And they may use that to try to convince Trump to bring Ramaswamy into his orbit. Now, listen, I'm going to support whatever Trump does, and President Trump may decide to bring him in to help him with the youth vote. But I do not want that guy. And we already got this Soros guy nominated for speaker today. We don't need Ramaswamy, another Soros guy. You know, think about it. Ramaswamy could not afford his college, so Soros' family paid for his graduate school. And then a few years later, he's a multi-billionaire, and he's running for president. I mean, come on.
There's suspicious.
We don't want the MAGA movement overtaken by Soros. And what I'm wondering is with this Emmer character, how much of the Republican Party is connected to Soros? It's not just this guy, and I'll tell you why it's not just this guy. If Emmer was the only guy with a Soros connection, the Republican establishment would be screaming about it. And they're not. And believe me, they know more about it than we do, and it's not even being mentioned. And if you remember a year or two ago, when Newt Gingrich attacked Soros Outnumbered on Fox, remember they jumped down his throat?
And you never saw from him. You never heard from him again on Fox.
Yeah, about that. No,
this is why people in these positions, like you told me, Byron Donalds. You said this morning that he agreed. He made an agreement to help keep the funding.
Well, he didn't
for
say
the
it, but it
Ukraine.
sounded like he was.
This is what these people do when they're in these positions. They want to maintain their political position, and in order to do that, they have to play the game and make concessions. And what happens is they make one concession here, one concession there, and the next thing you know, they've completely compromised themselves, and they've gone deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole before they don't even recognize themselves anymore. And they're in so deep. And that's the way it works. It's a little, they chip away at you little by little. And I'd said to you this morning, I said, I don't understand why anybody would go into politics. The only reason you would really want to go into it, maybe some people want to serve, but I think most people like to have power.
Yeah.
That's the real attraction, is to have power and the access it gives you to Washington, D.C., like that Republican dancing in the bowling alley. They like that access to the White House. And it's like these hangers-on with celebrities. They put up with whatever they have to put up with to stay in that group, to get invited to the parties, to stay in the club. And that's what's going on here. I mean, there's, like you said, I don't know, but whoever votes for this Emmers guy, are you going to consider them part of the swamp, or are you going to consider them trying to just save their job?
This stuff is happening so fast.
It is.
I haven't even processed it all yet.
Spinning.
When I was in college taking anthropology, I had this racist professor. He hated white people.
Was it Renee from Harlem?
It was pretty much like Renee from Harlem. Remember the guy? He called me out as being a racist in class. Remember that?
Yeah, you should tell that story. It's a good story.
I'll tell another time. I don't want to tell it right now. But he very liberal, racist guy, kind of like Renee from Harlem. But he was my anthropology professor, and I
hated white people.
Oh my goodness! And I humiliated him in class one. I'll tell the story another day.
It's a good story.
But it was beautiful. But one thing that this was in the textbook. It wasn't just this racist professor doing it. It was in the anthropology textbook at the university. It said that whatever class you're born in, you're always in that class.
Right.
That even if you marry up, like if you're in the middle class or lower, if you're born in the lower class and you marry somebody in the middle class, you're still lower class. If you're middle class and you marry like a billionaire that's like in the upper class, like a blue blood, you're still middle class. You can't move. And I never thought that was true in America until I see what goes on in Washington. And the Washington class,
that's how they think,
is how it works. Most of these people that are in government are like Sarah Huckabee. They're born into it. They're legacies. It's part of their family. And these are they're like nobility that inherit these titles and jobs. They're all connected. And Byron Donalds isn't connected. He's a regular guy. He has some legal trouble when he was young. I learned this yesterday. I did not know this. I went to college with Byron Donalds' wife. We went to the same college at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Florida Atlantic University, which is a great school. And I went to a very good school, Florida Atlantic University.
It's a beautiful, beautiful school.
It's a great school. It's like on the beach pretty much. And
their basketball team went to the Final Four last year, the Owls.
And it's not far from our house. It's a great school. I'm not embarrassed to have gone there, but it's not an Ivy League. And Byron Donalds and his wife, good people. They're in with Trump and everything else. But they didn't go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or the Oxford school. So they're not in that political class, and they're not.
And that seems to stick with you.
Yeah, you can't really break into that unless you have some type of connection, and that's just the way it is. And it's DeSantis is that way too.
It's a very British way to be. The higher class, that's how England is very much. So I guess that's kind of filtered over.
Here's a theory I've had for quite some time, and then this Byron Donalds thing happened this week, which backed it up, okay? I tend to believe that the British, and this, I probably shouldn't share this because this will sound crazy, and I don't have a lot of time to expand on it, so I'll give you the capsulized version.
Okay.
And I might have to give you such a capsulized version you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I think it is possible that the British did not lose the American Revolution, and this is what I mean by that, okay? We did not, the Continental Army did not defeat the British Army. They just surrendered. And the common theory goes is that the king was bankrupt, which they had money problems and all of that, and they just gave up the colonies. If you look at our history, so many of the things that we've been involved in have been forced upon us by the Brits.
Yep.
The Brits got us in the First World War. They got us in the Second World War.
Yep.
The Brits, the lying intelligence about weapons of mass destruction that got us into Iraq, that was British intelligence.
The Steele dossier?
The dossier about President Trump, fake. Michael Steele, British intelligence. Yep. And then this thing I found on Wikipedia, when Byron Donalds' Wikipedia was updated at 2:30 a.m. Monday morning Eastern time, it was updated by someone in the UK.
That's right.
So their deep state is our deep state. And on the 5 on Fox, Jessica Tarloff is there. She's on there, the liberal on the 5. And I tell Kathy all the time, I said, she's CIA. She went to the London School of Economics. What American goes to the London School of Economics? That sounds like a CIA school. You know what I mean? That's such a bizarre thing. And I think that the British, I know this sounds crazy, people, and I shouldn't say this, tell you guys this thought of mine, but I think that this country has really always been controlled by the look, Bill Clinton, Oxford, Mayor Pete, Oxford. Yeah, you know what I mean? The Brits,
They seem to have their hand in a lot of very sneaky things.
they have more control over this country and always have than we realize. And most of the things
and everything they do is to screw us over because they're pissed.
and gets people killed, gets Americans killed.
They never got over
causes
it, I
problems.
guess.
So
Exactly.
they've got more control over this country than why did Byron Donald's Wikipedia get updated at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time Monday morning with these arrest things added by someone from England?
Yeah. It's very sus,
Yeah,
as
you
Emily,
understand-
our
and
daughter
the-
would say sus.
The dossier, England, British intelligence, all these things I gave you. And I'm sure there's other examples, and I know of others. I just don't want to get sidetracked on it too much. But the government and the Congress and what you've seen with the speakership, I just want to end on this note. Don't get discouraged by what happened with the speakership. The Congress has always had approval ratings 12 and below, always, sometimes like 8. And the reason that Congress has always had low approval ratings is because they've always been bottom feeders, like we just saw the last couple weeks over the speakers fight. This is just the first time in a long time that we sat close and watched the play-by-play. What happened with this, and the speaker's fight isn't over, and this guy, Emmer, may not be the speaker, but he's certainly a favorite out of everybody else that's been picked, I think.
Well, why did they knock Donalds out, do you think? That was very quick.
MAGA, he's loyal to Trump.
Yeah.
And he's not in that group.
So they released all this information about his past, and he basically quit. I think they took him across the street and had where they do all their dirty deals, apparently.
They scared him.
And they had a conversation. McCarthy had a conversation with him like he had with Madison Cawthorn.
You want to be like Madison
and Byron
Cawthorn?
Donalds,
Yeah.
he said you can end up like him or you can stay in Congress.
Probably.
And he said, I'll play ball.
Probably.
And they probably threatened him. And
Yeah.
he said, I'll bail out today.
Yeah. And who knows what else they have on this
he's
guy.
got a family to think about.
And who
Madison
knows?
Cawthorn doesn't have a wife and kids.
Well, he did, but they got divorced. He had a wife.
Well, he had whatever. They were married 6 months or something, but he doesn't have a family. Byron Donalds has a family.
and his family's wealthy.
He has responsibilities, and he's probably thinking, well, I got to think of my children here and their legacy and their reputation, and they got to face people at school.
It's like Tom Cruise in The Firm with the manila envelope, right? With the woman on the beach they set him up with. They got if they
right.
don't, you know, that's
exactly what happened.
They got something on him. It could have been those arrests. Who knows what it could have been?
There could be more.
There could be other things we don't know about.
There could be more.
That's what they do. This is how Congress always operates. It's always operated this way, even before Trump came down the escalator. So don't let this scumduggery turn you off
Ooh, I like
of
that word.
politics. I did not make it up. I've heard others use
Yes,
it. But I don't even know if it's a real word, but it sounds pretty cool.
I think it is.
Yeah, but don't let this turn you off because Congress is always like this. It's always been like this. It's
Yes.
just been a long, long time since there's been something like this happen that the country has been following play by play in the
Yes,
Congress.
true.
So you don't notice it as much. But look at Biden. They're all like Biden. Scummy, on the take,
Yeah.
corrupt, and they're so
Yep.
corrupt they don't even know they're corrupt.
No, they don't. That's the thing, because they live in that bubble. And when you live in that world where everybody, it's all relative. When you live in that bubble where everybody's corrupt, that becomes your new normal.
Yeah, if
And
everybody's corrupt, are you corrupt?
Then you no
right?
longer feel like you're living a corrupt
Correct.
life because you just think, well, that's how things
Correct.
are here. Everybody's doing it, so this is your new normal now.
Now, don't forget, do your Christmas shopping at MyPillow.com. Use our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Not only will you get great Christmas gifts, but you'll be supporting the program and all of my content. Promo code Kane, Kane at MyPillow.com. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We will talk to you next time.